Let's begin by getting a little context and background information about Plato's Republic to help you understand Plato's ethical theory and its relationship with the soul, which is the goal of this particular series of videos. Now, Plato's Republic is popularly known, and it's just not popularly, it's not a misconception, but it's correct, known as a book on political philosophy. Some people think on political theory. Now, that is certainly what much of the book is spent discussing. However, really at the basis of it, we find Plato's not only views on political philosophy, but his views on political philosophy are intended to explain his views on ethics, what's moral, and explaining his views on ethics and, for that matter, political philosophy, he appeals to metaphysical theories of the forms and his doctrine in epistemology, in the theory of knowledge. That is, who the ruler should be. It is the one who has knowledge, and he explains what knowledge is. But let's get back to kind of the preliminaries. The main question addressed in this book is, what is justice? Like the early Socratic dialogues, the book starts where one major question about a virtue, about an ethical characteristic, is raised. In this case, the question is, what is justice? And it starts like all Socratic dialogues do. There's a man, Cephalus, and he gets into a conversation. In fact, he sends somebody to go grab Socrates and come back to his house and have a discussion with himself and his son and some of his son's friends. And the discussion turns to talking about Socrates says, gee, we'd like to, Cephalus, you're an older guy, I always like talking to you guys, you've been around, I can get some wisdom. And in the process of talking, you say, Cephalus makes a comment that, well, wealth, that is, having some money, makes it easier for a person to be just. At which point it opens up the question for the Socratic question, and the main question, the main character in the dialogue, as in most of Plato's dialogues, is Socrates. So Socrates begins with a Socratic question: what is justice? And he begins to quiz Cephalus, and he's not happy with Cephalus's response. So Cephalus turns his position over to his son and his son's friend, and the Socratic dialogue begins. And as with the early Socratic dialogues, in the middle of Book 2, it's divided up, I believe, into 10 books. You kind of think of them as chapters. I think the way they used to divide them in the old days was that the scrolls were so big, so they could fix so much on them. So it was one chapter per, let's say, scroll, or however it is that they put the books together back in those days. But by the middle of Book 2, we end up in the place that we end up with the earlier Socratic dialogues, that we don't have an answer. That is, Socrates has challenged the people that he's talking to, and they haven't come to an agreement about what justice is, and they've decided certain positions aren't any good. But in this case, things change, because right before this, Socrates is having a debate with a sophist, Thrasymachus, and the challenge now is turned over to Socrates. It is, okay, Socrates, you don't like any of these views, or you showed us that there are a problem with these views. Well, why don't you tell us what justice is? And that's where the serious work of the entire Republic begins.